Good evening, and thank you to the organisers for my invitation to speak to you tonight. I am Labour's candidate for the general election for Shrewsbury and Atcham, and just for the record, I wouldn't take the 11% pay rise, not perhaps because they don't deserve it. I guess MPs do work hard, but I don't know how you can look people in the eye when they're facing pay cuts and pay freezes and job losses and still take 11%. In the first 3 years of recession, after the global economic crash of job losses, pay cuts, cuts to services, according to the Times Rich List, the 1,000 richest people in the UK made £155 billion. This was enough, as Michael Meacher pointed out on his blog, to have paid off the national deficit and still leave them around 30 billion. And while these cuts were going on, and while these people were making vast amounts of wealth, we had all the rhetoric coming out of government. We had Downing Street telling people to wear jumpers, the elderly to reduce their heating bills. We had our own MP telling a beggar in a wheelchair to get himself a job. And worse than that, and we've heard it already tonight, we had George Osborne telling us we're all in it together. Clearly, we are not all in it together. And what's it do to the morale of a health worker, someone who's a teacher, someone in the public sector, when they know that millionaires have had over £100,000 back in tax rebates from the present government? When Bonnie Greer, the playwright, was on Question Time, she told us we had to wake up, that this country, the coalition, was reshaping our society. And that's exactly what's happening. This is far more radical than anything that Tony Blair or even Margaret Thatcher has done, because it's not simply about protecting the wealth anymore. This is about an ideology that believes that public sector is doomed and private was always better and more efficient. And I'll quote you Keith Barrow, the council leader. Last November, he stated, "Austerity offers us a huge opportunity to reform and modernise an archaic and inefficient local authority." He went on to say that austerity and less funding is driving creativity, less waste, higher productivity, and a modern and efficient way of delivering services that meet customer needs. Well, I thought we were citizens, but clearly now we are customers to this council. And these are key issues for us to face within the People's Assembly, because is it more efficient? Is it more cost-effective in private hands? So the ideology is that everything is better in private hands. And we have shining examples of how that is. We have G4S, we have A4E, and of course Atos, to name but a few. And certainly in local government, especially with Shropshire Council, this ideology has been driven on with vigour. West Mercia Supplies, an internal company providing stationery for Shropshire, Herefordshire and Worcestershire, bought from the councils for £6.74 million, sold within 4 days for £38 million as part of the Hedge Lane package to Smith News. You used to own West Mercia Supplies, bought and sold within 4 days for millions upon millions of pounds. The French company, Viola, has a contract with Shropshire Council for the next 27 years. There will be 3 general elections before that contract is up for renewal. A contract that went up by £500,000 last year to £25.8 million, and described now as a nightmare by the council leader, Keith Barrow. However, with our hospitals and schools, local government services have to be affordable and sustainable. There will never be a blank cheque for public services. And we have to recognise the ideas and the policies that we have come from these workshops tonight, not only have to convince the people within these hallowed walls, but the thousands upon thousands of residents outside. And we have to make sure that these arguments get through to these people, thousands upon thousands of electors. We need to argue that Shropshire's council plans don't add up. For instance, if you remove care and support at people's homes, people have no choice but to put their loved ones in residential care, at far greater expense to the taxpayer and the people. That privatising and outsourcing isn't always more efficient and cost-effective. And what happened with West Mercia Supplies and Viola are examples of that. And also we have to smash the lie that £80 million worth of cuts and 1,700 job cuts will have no impact on services. In fact, you see press reports saying that actually services will improve despite all these cuts. And it's the end of the consultation on Monday that brings the slashes to the youth service, and they've already said there will be cuts, and that starts on Monday. A youth service that provides a safe and informative environment for Shropshire's young people. And finally, we have to highlight the impact of the 1,700 redundancies have on those families, and it affects the prosperity of this town. A prison officer who lost his job last year was saying on Radio Shropshire only yesterday that despite applying for hundreds upon hundreds of jobs, he was unsuccessful. So we have a responsibility, not only to defend public services because of the previous generations that fought so hard for a fairer and just society, but far more importantly than that, for the people that follow us. So through this assembly, we need to get our message through to the residents of Shropshire. Let us tell them that their society is being reshaped beyond recognition, and that because services are being driven by profit, the most vulnerable people are already paying the price. Thank you.